Yeah, I'm sorry. Hey everybody, welcome finally back to another video, and today we're going to be talking about what's going on around Avdiivka in the front in Ukraine. The Russians have launched a massive assault north of Avdiivka, and for multiple reasons. During the original separatist war that took place in 2014 around the same time as Crimea, which roughly had borders that look like this, Avdiivka was a town in the front line, so this has about 8 years of fortifications by the Ukrainians built up. This is probably the strongest fortification in the entire country, so this is why the Russians want to take this out. Due to the density of the fortifications, the Ukrainians don't have to allocate too many men to the area. But if the Russians are able to capture this, the Ukrainians will have to reinforce this area with a lot of troops to establish new fortifications. The Russians have slowly crept up on this area throughout the war, taking Verkhnotoretsk and Bakhmutovka, but there were multiple months in between the captures of those cities, and the main goal is to take Orlivka, because Orlivka controls the supply into Avdiivka. Even an assault through Krasnohorivka, which reaches Berdychi, wouldn't be able to cut supply because there'd be this road that goes through Umanske into Orlivka, and then they can funnel that in from the back. There's also rail lines that go straight into the settlement. It's this little gray line right here on the map, and it's actually become a main center of fighting recently. There's even likely tunnels that go under Avdiivka, which help supply the settlement too. Since Orlivka is the main goal settlement of this offensive, that's why it was a big deal when the Russians captured Pitsky back in September of last year, 2022. However, they kind of got stuck. Throughout January, they worked their way up through Vodyane and Opytne, but just recently the Russians lost a lot of progress by Opytne. It was back in August, I think. And this is the better attack vector because you can go straight up and take Orlivka. And once a settlement's out of supplies, it's a matter of time before the Russians are able to push through. So the Russians launched multiple assaults, one in the direction of Svatove and one in the direction of Sieverne from the south and north. Initially they had some gains, but it slowed down rapidly afterwards. The main reasons why the Russians couldn't advance in Krasnohorivka is because of this little hill right here, which gives the Ukrainians good artillery firing positions to destroy any culminating attack before it begins. Grouping is that, so you know what I meant. In this area right here in the red, this isn't the area that Russia's captured, it's just the area where combat has happened. It's likely that Russia's only made gains up to like here. The Ukrainians have this really strong settlement right along the rail line that they've been using for defense in the region. A ton of videos came out of Russian equipment being destroyed in this region, and there were just so many. However, there were even more in Vodyane because this attack was even less successful because the Ukrainians had been prepared for it. There were multiple things which helped stop the offensive early. It only lasted about 3 or 4 days. Multiple Ukrainian loitering munition strikes into Donetsk and Makivka helped destroy some of the equipment that would have been sent to the front. And the other thing was a saboteur group destroying the main bridge that the Russians were using to send equipment to Krasnohorivka. This pretty much immediately stopped the momentum and the Russians had to go into conservation mode. I have some statistics, and these are from the Ukrainian side. This is also from the entire front, so it's not just Avdiivka, but it's likely that a majority of these were from Avdiivka. In total, there were 208 vehicles and 111 tanks destroyed. Even though I'm a little bit skeptical of these numbers, and especially the ones that the Ukrainians say about casualty figures, I think these are probably in the realm of possibility and truth. Aside from the Vuhledar offensive, this has been one of the worst losses of Russian equipment the entire war. This offensive is sort of a symptom of why I haven't made a video in 1 month. It's because the front really isn't moving. And that's because defense is the best approach for both sides right now. When the Ukrainians failed to make a major breakthrough in the south, it's because of the amount of Russian reserves that have been secretly being mobilized over the past year. The Ukrainians want things exactly like this to happen in the Avdiivka offensive, to wear down Russian reserves and thin out the lines so they can make a breakthrough. And the Russians, seeing that the Western equipment has proved well inside of Ukraine, they want the Ukrainians to keep attacking like how they were in the Tokmak direction. Both sides have sort of been in this gridlock since the end of September, and this was a desperate attempt on the Russian side to try to break it. And it ended up just proving why defense is beneficial for the Ukrainians. The problem is, so many fortifications have been built on both sides that it's just going to be very hard for a big sweeping breakthrough to happen on either side. It's likely that the conflict is probably going to slow down and freeze over this winter, because the Surovikin lines are only going to get stronger, which are Russia's main defense lines, and the Ukrainian fortifications are just going to get better and better as time goes on as well. I don't know why Russia chooses to go for the 9-year-old Ukrainian fortifications instead of the 1-year-old ones, but it's likely because losing Avdiivka would lead to a pretty big breakthrough. because it's likely the Ukrainians would, this is just a complete guess, probably fall back to a line similar to like this or something. The main problem is defense has gotten too strong on both sides, and neither side has the ability to overwhelmingly destroy those fortifications with a massive assault like we've just seen right here. So the conflict is probably going to freeze and slow down, which is not good for either side. In the most recent video I made, I talked about how Russia needs a second mobilization to win, and this is exactly why. They don't have the men to overwhelm Ukrainian fortifications. Even by throwing 300 big-ass pieces of metal and over 4,000 people at Avdiivka, they couldn't break through here, and it's just not going to happen. Not to be too hard on the Russians, I think even through the summer, the Ukrainians proved that the Surovikin lines were very strong. Even though they were penetrated by Verbove, it's unlikely that there's still going to be a major penetration because it's about to get colder, and then the ground's going to get muddier, and then it's going to start snowing, and then nothing can happen. And then spring's going to come, and then by summer, the defense lines are just going to be even stronger too. That kind of felt good to make a video after all that time. I'll try to keep giving updates and stuff when stuff like this happens. Let me know if you want to see a video about Israel, because that's currently what's going on too. Alright, and that's what I got for you guys. See you later.